So you're thinking about getting snake bite piercings. I'm going to cover everything you should know before getting them done on Consultations by a Piercer, episode number 33. For those that are new to the Body Piercing and Tattooing channel, welcome to the channel. I hope you're finding the videos helpful and useful, but you might not know who I am. My name is DaVo. I'm a professional body piercer and have been since 1994. I own and operate the Axiom Body Piercing Studio located right here in Des Moines, Iowa, inside Skin Kitchen Tattoo. So the piercing we're talking about today is a grouping of lip piercings, 2 of them, on opposite sides of your lower lip. This could take anywhere from 8 to 12 weeks to heal, during which time I'm going to suggest cleaning twice daily using a sterile saline spray. Personally, I like Neomed's piercing Aftercare because it comes out in a fine mist. You can find comparable stuff that, like the wound wash version, at most good drugstores or pharmacies. The biggest thing you want to look for is when you turn over the can, it should say on the back under ingredients, sodium chloride in maybe purified or distilled water. It should not have any other chemical names or anything else listed on there. Also, when you look at the can on the front, it should say sterile. Now, if you have the kind that comes out in a fine mist, you just mist both of the piercings, let it stay in contact for about 5 minutes. If you have the kind that comes out like a squirt gun, it might hurt to do that, to spray it directly on. So what I generally suggest doing is cold compresses. Take a sterile piece of gauze sponge or a clean paper towel, saturate it with the saline, and then lay it against the piercing area for roughly about 5 minutes. The other thing I suggest doing is into your shower, kind of tilt your head back, pull your hair out of the way, and let the water flow over the area for about 30 seconds. Now, the saline, I would suggest doing twice daily. The shower thing, once a day, is perfectly fine. What we're doing when we do both of those things is we're trying to remove the discharge that hardens and collects on the jewelry. The crusties, as many people often call them. This should be sufficient to do that. There's no reason to get in there and dig around with Q-tips or anything else. If you do have an obsessive amount of discharge and it doesn't seem like it wants to come off, see your piercer. Have them clean it for you. Have them take a look at it because there might be something else going on. So that covers the outside. For the inside, I would suggest rinsing a couple times a day with Biotin antiseptic mouthwash or an alcohol-free antiseptic mouthwash. 30 seconds each time. It's more than efficient. You don't need to do it more times a day. The other thing you might want to do is warm water in sea salt. 1/8 of a teaspoon per cup of warm water. Let it dissolve, and then rinse with it off and on for a few minutes. It kind of helps to kind of draw waste and debris from the piercing, makes it feel better, and overall, it soothes it. Makes the experience a little bit less grumpy. Now, you do need to practice cross-contamination prevention. Common sense things. Wash your hands before you handle it. No oral contact, deep mouth kissing, or sexual contact for a minimum of 8 weeks. You are more susceptible to STDs during oral sex, so if you switch partners, practice safe sex the way you're supposed to. Latex barriers. Avoid sticking unclean objects to your mouth, like pin caps, toothpicks, etc. Do not share food items or utensils with other people. Make sure that your own utensils are cleaned on a regular basis. Not a bad idea to start with a fresh toothbrush. Keep your environment clean. Clothing, bedding, towels, anything that may come in contact with the piercing area needs to be cleaned on a regular basis. Do not swim. Do not submerge piercing in bodies of water you cannot control the quality of, which is pretty much everything but your own clean bathtub. Understand that if you can get in something and move around a body of water, more than likely there's going to be a ton of microorganisms in that water. And the reality is there's no way to swim and not come in contact with that. And you have 2 open wounds on your body. So there's a possibility of infection until the piercings are completely healed. Keep pets away from the piercing. Do not let them sleep in the bed with you, especially those smaller animals that like to sleep up in your face and steal your breath while you're sleeping. Now let's talk about trauma, swelling, and abuse. Do not sleep directly on the piercings. Make sure you're sleeping away from them or figure out a way to elevate them off the bed. It's going to be a little tricky even if you're a side sleeper, but if you're a back sleeper, this will be an easy game for you. Do not spin, rotate, or move the jewelry. It's not a fidget spinner. It doesn't need to be played with, and it's not going to become permanently attached to your body. The only time you really need to have any contact with the piercing is when you're checking the tightness of the balls, and we'll get into that a little bit later. Now, during that first week, there can be swelling. And usually with the swelling on this particular oral piercings, lip piercings, it may not happen until the second or third day. Usually happens in the morning. At least that's when it seems to be at its worst. Now, you can cut down your intake of tobacco, alcohol, cannabis, hot and spicy foods, things that are extremely warm in temperature, or anything that may agitate your mouth. And that first 3 to 5 days will help reduce the amount of swelling you see. Also, eating a soft food diet, something that's simplistic, that doesn't involve a lot of chewing, is usually a good idea. Things like shakes, smoothies, applesauce, baby food, any yogurt, anything you can kind of eat through a straw is a good option for that first 3 to 5 days, especially when the swelling is usually at its worst. The other thing you can do is reduce the amount of talking you're doing. I know if you have a job where you do a lot of talking as part of your job, you may want to consider doing this on a 3-day weekend or sometime when you have a little bit of time to recover. Like a 3-day weekend, get it done on Friday, so you have Saturday, Sunday, and Monday where you don't have to deal with it. Now, listen to your body. If it hurts to ingest something, do not ingest it. If you're drinking something and it burns, you probably shouldn't. That's going to include things like carbonated beverages, sodas, or pops, as they call them in the Midwest. I would suggest staying away from that stuff, at least for that first week, because that carbonation can agitate it. Plus, there's a lot of salt. Some other ideas on reducing swelling is gently sucking on ice chips for that first couple days. Just go hit a convenience store and buy one of those giant cups full of crushed ice. Staying hydrated, drinking lots of cold liquids, raiding the freezer, lots of cold frozen treats, and also sleeping with your head elevated above your heart can help reduce the amount of swelling. And drinking lots of cold liquids throughout the night. Now, once you've gotten through the swelling, you can slowly start to wean yourself onto solid foods. I suggest sticking with kind of simplistic things at first that don't involve a lot of movement. It's going to be kind of it can be a little bit of a pain and discomfort initially, and there is a bit of an adaptation. It's not as bad as, say, a tongue piercing, but it's still there. And understand that if you are frustrated with this period, it's all going to get better. Eventually, you're going to get to the point where it feels stranger to have that jewelry out than to have it in. But it does take time to adapt. The other thing is it gets easier once you downsize the shorter posts because we have to leave those longer ones in for the swelling. But after that, there really isn't a reason. We'll get to downsizing later. Now, what are the risks involved with this particular set of piercings? The risks are damage to teeth, gums, and the bone structure of your mouth. That jewelry will come in contact mainly with your gums and teeth. It is double the risk because there's 2 of them. So you want to keep that in mind. If you notice any type of discomfort or damage, remove the jewelry. There's really not a thing you can do to fix that. The other option or possibility is swallowing parts. This one is not as a high risk as, say, a tongue piercing, but it's always a possibility. Placement, angle, and jewelry. You should speak to your piercer about what your end goal is of the type of jewelry or style of jewelry you want to wear in this. If you do want to wear like a set of rings, the piercing needs to be either angled more outside the mouth or it needs to be done as high as possible so that the rings can wrap comfortably around your lip and stay away from your teeth. If you're just going to stick with the studs, sometimes doing them further down is going to keep it below the gum line and decrease some of the contact that you may have. So it's a good idea to talk to them about what your end goal is instead of coming back in 3 months and going, I'm ready for rings, and them going, well, you're going to have to put something really big in there and you're not going to like it. Now, if you are considering rings, it should be done, like I said, higher. If it's going to be done at an angle and more outside the mouth, then it needs to be done with either a curved barbell, possibly, or circular barbells or some type of circular jewelry. Understand that it is a huge trade-off. You're going to be a lot more prone to problems, issues, etc. if you do go with circular jewelry like rings or circular barbells. It's going to have more contact, more movement, and more issues. So keep that in mind before you get it done. Also, if it's done with circular, it's going to be more outside the mouth, more like if you think of a vertical labrae piercing. If you're unfamiliar with what that is, I would suggest looking it up so you have an idea of what kind of angle I'm talking about. Usually on the side, it's not going to be quite as steep, but it'll be kind of a slightly less steep. And that's going to keep and avoid contact or keep the jewelry away from the piercing or away from your teeth and reduce contact. Now, usually these are done in one sitting. However, in some cases, due to either financial reasons or your lifestyle, what have you, you may consider doing one at a time. If that's the case, it's always a good idea when marking, mark both of them out so that you have an idea of how that space is going to be and how that position is going to be. One of the problems we run into with bites in general is usually we're trying so hard to visually make them look like they match that we have to kind of do a compromise between eliminating the amount of possible contact with teeth and gums versus where that piercing is going to look best. So it's kind of trying to find a balancing act between the two. When looking at the markings, understand that we are not generally symmetrical. We're a little different from side to side. So it's more about making them appear to be matching than it is to actually match them. Like you're not going to get out a ruler and match them or a level or whatever. You want to look at the marks close up and then at arm's length. Understand that a majority of people are going to see you at least 2 to 3 feet away from your face, and that it needs to look best at that length because that's where a majority of people are going to see your piercings. Now, as far as jewelry choices, labret studs are probably the most popular and most common. Like I said earlier, you can do this with circular barbells or curved barbells. The thing is, you got to understand that if you are only going to wear rings in this, then that option may be a better option for you. But if you plan on switching from studs to rings and studs to rings, you want to pierce initially with labret studs and at a straight angle into the mouth as high as possible. And as always, with any threaded type of jewelry, you want to check the ends on a regular basis. They can come unscrewed on their own, and they usually happen at the worst possible time and land in the most disgusting thing near you. Now let's move on to pain and experience. Usually this piercing on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being the most painful. Most people say it kind of lies in that 2 to 5 range. Everybody has kind of a slightly different experience with this one. Usually it's very quick, the piercing itself. It's through pretty soft tissue, but occasionally, just basically for one reason or another, we just hit it just right, and it can be a little bit on the ouchy side. Now, this piercing should be done from the outside inward to ensure that you're hitting that mark exactly. Generally, our procedure is to clamp it with a set of Pennington forceps, inject the needle in and through, take the forceps off, push through a threaded guide pin, thread the jewelry onto it, and then push it back through. If you're doing this with rings, it might be one fluid motion where they just push the jewelry out with the guide pin and what have you. With me, usually the thing that takes the longest is getting the damn ball on. The rest of it's very, very quick. Now, there may be some bleeding, usually slight. Most of this is caused often by the guide pin because it's thinner than the actual jewelry or the incision that we make. So it leaves kind of a little bit of a gap that is more prone to bleeding. Off to the side, lip piercings do sometimes come in contact more with blood vessels and bleed a little bit more than other ones, but usually not really too bad. You're going to see a little bit of throbbing and aching or slight off and on anywhere from a couple minutes, and then it's going to be tender to the touch. Talking, eating, drinking is going to be uncomfortable. That's just part of the process that will go away with time. Now, it does take time to adapt to the jewelry being in your mouth and being out of your mouth. So be patient. Be cautious. Try to avoid contact as much as possible. When it hurts to do something, stop doing it. It's your body training you to not have contact with that piercing or mess with it. Anatomy. Most people have the correct anatomy for this. I don't think I've ever came across anybody that said, no, I'm not doing this. Sometimes when we've candled, I may have to adjust all everything. But usually for the most part, most people have the anatomy to get this piercing done. One thing I forgot to cover with placement is usually the guide point is the edges of the nostril. Now, what to consider. First thing is, this is 2 different piercings, so it can be kind of 2 times the hassle. Some people kind of like to do one and then the other one. However, that just prolongs the period of time you're going to have to deal with a piercing swelling and being in your mouth and getting used to it. So understand that going in, that this is kind of double the trouble. This will affect eating, talking, drinking, etc. for up to a week, week and a half for most people. Even after that, it can be kind of an issue, especially if you don't downsize the jewelry. The next thing is you will have to change your diet. Plan ahead, buy that stuff in advance so you don't have to go running around town looking for it. Downsizing. One thing I kind of didn't cover, which I should have covered when we did jewelry. I generally suggest downsizing this particular piercings in roughly, usually about 4 to 6 weeks. Sooner if you are starting to get a lot of contact with your teeth and gums. This piercing will tend to nest, which means it will kind of indentate on the inside a little bit once you downsize. That's normal. Normal reaction also that I didn't cover is to see a white ring of tissue form around the inside of your mouth and see this yellowish stringy stuff hanging off there that looks like snot. That's normal. It's a discharge, just like the stuff that comes out on the front. On the back, it can't harden into those crusty little boogers and harden on the rings. So it forms in these strings. One thing you always want to consider before getting an oral piercing is if you have any upcoming events or dinners, especially if you're going to have to do a lot of speaking. It's usually best to wait until after you're done with those events to get it done. Are you going on vacation? If you're going on vacation, you're probably going to want to swim. If you're going out of town on a job, you may not be in the best environment. Understand that when you go on vacation or travel, you can't control how clean the environment is, which increases your likelihood of infection. It tends to be more of a hassle to deal with. So I generally suggest wait until you have time to heal that piercing at home. The other thing is you're getting into an environment that you do not normally have an immunity to, or you may come in contact with pathogen that you don't have immunity to because you've never been exposed to it before. So there's an increased likelihood of infection when you travel. And lastly, hobbies and sport. If you have any hobby, sport, activity of any type that is an organized event or thing, or you belong to an organization, chances are there's a dress code, especially if you wear a uniform while doing it. So check with your coach, check the rule book, do all that stuff beforehand, because nothing is as frustrating as getting the piercings done, then going off to do it the next day to your event and realizing that you have to take the jewelry out. There is no way to hide these piercings. There's no way to take them in and out safely and not have the piercing close. So it's best to wait until you're done with those activities to get it done. And I always like to bring this up last because this is kind of the most important thing with any piercing is isolation and sleep. The more you avoid contact with this piercing, the more you avoid movement in the area, the less you sleep on it, the less you bother it, the faster it's going to heal and the less likely you are to see problems. So always, I don't care how good it feels, don't sleep on it. Well, that's all I have to say about snake bite piercings. Till next time, here's hoping all your piercings heal with ease without a single issue. And if you're in the Des Moines, Iowa area, I hope to see you for your body piercing needs in the future. Have a good day, everybody. Take care, and we'll see you in the next video.